Streaming now, this is the Wood TV Live Desk.
And good morning, everyone. Phil Penarski here with the Wood TV Live Desk. Hope you're having a great start to your Wednesday. As he does every Wednesday, digital reporter Matt Jaworowski joins us on the Live Desk once again to talk about his latest Sunday story. And Matt, first off, great to see you. Second off, the story that we're going to be discussing really delves deep into yet another animal cause, another animal-focused story, this one dealing with Michigan's bald eagle population and its really tremendous rebound over the past couple of years.
Yeah, this is one of the success stories, and it's great to highlight those. We've done a lot of different stories about endangered species, especially here in Michigan, and the work being done to protect them. So it's important to highlight these success stories as well.
Absolutely, and obviously the main focus of the article really dealt with how the population has grown and is doing tremendous work really on part of the recent survey done by the Department of Natural Resources. But one thing you did touch on that obviously played a huge role in sort of the decline of the population had to deal with chemical pollution, something that you've done extensive reporting on over the past couple of years as well.
Right. So kind of really the primary issue that really hurt the bald eagle, really pushed it toward the brink of extinction, was chemical pollution, specifically a chemical compound called DDT. My motivation for wanting to tell this story is, as some people may recall, I just did a big 4-part series on PBB, which was a different chemical compound that was manufactured here in Michigan. And then there was basically a giant mix-up that caused massive pollution here. Similar story with DDT, although it wasn't like this accidental shipment that was mixed into our farm supply. This is just environmental pollution. So basically what happened, the same St. Louis plant that produced PBB here in St. Louis, Michigan, also manufactured DDT. Plants all across the country are developing DDT to use as a pesticide. It's extremely effective. It helps kills off bugs and protects crops. It was seemingly safe for humans, but what they didn't realize, it took them several decades to fully realize, is that it was having an environmental impact. So this chemical, whether it's leaching into the soil, leaching into groundwater, nearby rivers and streams, just like in St. Louis, those chemicals are getting into the food chain. Whether it's insects are eaten by those fish, or the fish are exposed directly because the DDT is flowing into their habitat. Those eagle, as it moves through the food chain, that DDT kind of magnifies. I talked to an expert, and we kind of detailed this for the story, about how it really concentrates as it goes further down the food chain. So by the time it got to our bald eagles, it was really causing some major issues, a lot of reproductive issues. The primary one was that it caused the shells in their eggs to be too brittle. So basically these birds, those that actually could reproduce, when they went to, kind of sit and keep their eggs warm, they were breaking them and the hatchlings would die. So that really led to some really devastating numbers. And it's kind of highlighted what we see now. So the latest survey by the DNR, they estimate there's approximately 900 breeding pairs of bald eagles across Michigan, which seems like a relatively low number. That doesn't include, that's just breeding pairs, where more as those eagles are growing up, they're not breeding yet. But that number's up from 359 that we had in 2000. It's up from 83 pairs that we had in 1980. And then in 1963, which is when we first were really starting to learn more about DDT and its impact, there were 417 breeding pairs of bald eagles left across the continental United States. So that's really kind of how close they were to not being here anymore. The American symbol. There was a lot of work that brought this back. Obviously, they were given endangered species protections. If you read the story, you also learn there are a couple other factors in play and protections that were added to protect the bald eagle. And really, the Endangered Species Act helped them organize. It cleared away a lot of obstacles for conservation groups to work together across state lines to do rehab and release programs. And that's what got the bald eagle back to where it was today. Stop using DDT, instituting more protections that are still in place today, even though they're no longer endangered, and then those rehab programs.
Absolutely. And Matt, just talking about those rehab programs and the Endangered Species Protection Act that kind of paved the way for these populations to grow. Obviously, a very good thing to happen, and we're very surprised. When I read that number, you mentioned that 900 breeding pairs may seem kind of like a little bit, but to me, I feel like compared to where we've been in the past years and sort of the emphasis that we've heard on the low numbers of population of bald eagles across the country, I think 900 is definitely a ginormous step up. Obviously, you spent time looking at that survey from the DNR and also talking to agents, just discussing the population growth and everything like that, Matt. But what are officials kind of saying now for, obviously they're doing their part, but what are some things that they're asking regular everyday citizens like you and me and everybody watching to kind of do to help stimulate that population and really just keep those numbers growing higher and higher?
Right. So there are some factors at play that's really continuing the growth, and that's important. What we're seeing here in Michigan is, yes, 900 in one respect may seem like a small number, but in comparison to where those numbers were, it's a really strong step in the positive direction. And between the National Audubon Society and the Michigan DNR, other agencies, they do expect those numbers to keep growing. And across the country, they are. I believe the 2020 survey found there's approximately 315,000 bald eagles across the United States, 70,000 breeding pairs. So as a species, it's much more healthy. And we're expecting the bald eagle population to continue to rise here. There are a couple, so there's rehab conservation efforts. They're not really needed anymore as far as, for the bald eagle, I should say, as far as rehabbing and releasing. They obviously do take in injured animals, but they don't need to grow them just to grow the species. Nature's doing it just fine all by itself. There are still a couple of man-made obstacles, though. When I talked to the National Audubon Society, they were really quick to point out two things. The number one man-made obstacle now is lead poisoning. So because bald eagles like to live near water, if you're using lead-based tackle for your fishing equipment, or hunters using lead-based shotguns, they're encouraging people to look for alternatives to keep that lead out of the environment. That's just one thing we could try to avoid. And then also making sure you're cleaning up your fishing line. If you lose your line, it gets tangled in something. As frustrating as that may be, it's easy to leave it there and just forget about it. But it's important to make sure we get that stuff out of the environment too, because that can cause issues for the bald eagles. And just big raptors aside, she encourages people to keep their distance. They're not necessarily a dangerous bird. They're not necessarily going to attack you, but you're going to want to keep your distance. They will protect their nests if they feel threatened. They typically nest very high up in trees, so these incidents are very rare. But certain raptors, especially ospreys, will abandon the nest if they feel threatened, if there's human interaction nearby, or other human activities. And then, especially now, we're in this age of technology, flying drones. Keep your drones away from nests, because those birds can take that as a threat too. So just some things to keep in mind as you're out exploring.
Right, absolutely. And they're relatively big. I think observing them from afar is not necessarily a bad thing there. So definitely just a couple of really key points there, Matt.
The talons get sharp.
Yes, exactly. That's a good warning for that, as well. All right. Well, yeah, I encourage everybody, if you haven't gotten the chance to check out Matt's latest piece on the bald eagle population and its rebound here in the state of Michigan, I highly encourage you to do so. It is live right now on our website, woodtv.com, and that is where you can also check out some of Matt's other pieces, including some of those chemical pollution stories that he was talking about. His PBP series did very, very well. Very interesting topic that we got to discuss in depth here on the live desk as well. Matt, we're going to let you go. Thank you so much for stopping on the desk again today.
Anytime. Thank you, Phil.
Absolutely. And I want to thank everybody else for tuning into this latest edition of the Wood TV Live Desk. I'm Phil Pinarski, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.